Hey guys, what's up? My name is Skye Webb and I'm here to talk about a true crime story that I cannot get off my mind. But before I get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer that I mean no harm to any of the victims or the victims' families, and I wish everyone who was hurt within this story the utmost peace and solace, either in rest or in recovery. With that out of the way, welcome to True Crime Thursday. Today we're going to look into the wacky ass case of Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias was born on the 9th of July 1980 in Salinas, California. She was one of 4 children, including an older half-sister, a younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. She claims that during her childhood she was often beaten with belts and wooden spoons and things along that kind of nature. She claims that her developmental years from the age of 7 were very tainted by abuse, but none of her siblings have been able to back up those claims. Jodi attended Waika Union High School but dropped out in grade 11, later earning her GED through other means. She was interested in photography from a young age. She was never able to fully transition into making a living out of photography though, and that was one of her goals, but instead her career sort of took a different path. She started working as a server at a restaurant and spa, and it was here working as a server that she met the manager Daryl, and she ended up dating him. In February 2006, Jodi went on to work at Legal Prepaid Services, which is now known as Legal Shield, while still working as a server. Later that year, due to the demands of the job, Jodi and Daryl ended up splitting up and going their separate ways, although they did remain friends. The same year, Jodi met Travis Alexander, a salesman and motivational speaker for Legal Shield, and they met at a business convention in Las Vegas. Travis Alexander was born in 1977 and was one of 8 children. He was also a Mormon, which he took fairly seriously. Travis and Jodi got along really well due to their immediate attraction to one another. It was very looks-based, I guess you would say. Jodi claims that they became sexual with one another within only a week of actually meeting. And from there, they would travel from city to city for work together. And when they went together, they would spend their time constantly calling and texting each other to have phone sex or to sext through text message. In November 2006, Jodi was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints as a way to become closer to Travis. The two did date, but they only dated and were serious for about 5 months before breaking up, due to Jodi being very controlling and just not exactly what Travis pictured for his life. He got to the point where he decided he was getting older, he wanted to marry and settle down and have children, and he didn't see Jodi as being wife material. But after a lot of begging and pleading on Jodi's part, the two did decide to maintain a sexual relationship, even after Travis had begun to date other women. The relationship between Travis and Jodi was purely sexual at this point in time, and he had told a lot of friends, I just don't see her as being wife material, I don't see this as being long term, and he just wasn't into it. But he did keep her around as a friends with benefits type thing because he was so sexually frustrated, I guess, by the fact that he was Mormon and not really supposed to have sex until marriage. That was a big deal for him. Although he did break that rule, he didn't break it with other Mormon people who he actually saw potential with, if that makes sense. In mid-July 2007, Travis had his tires slashed, so he went down the road, bought some new ones, put the new tires on, and then those tires were slashed as well. After that, he went away on a business trip, and while he was away, he contacted one of his friends and said, hey, will you go check on my dog? He absolutely loved his dog. So his friend went to go check on the dog, and when they arrived at Travis's house, which was supposed to be empty, they walked in and found Jodi Arias standing in the kitchen baking cookies. And she even offered the friend a cookie, like she was perfectly entitled to be there when nobody knew about it. And as it turns out, she had actually crawled in through the doggy door, them little flappy things to let the dogs in and out. She'd actually crawled in through that to get into the house, because obviously she didn't have a key because she wasn't supposed to be there. Anyway, Travis began seeing other people, in particular a 19-year-old Mormon girl who at this point had refused to have sex with him because of their Mormon beliefs that they had to be married first, yada yada yada. So after returning from a date with this 19-year-old Mormon girl, Travis obviously kissed her goodbye, came home, got into bed, and when he got into bed, Jodi just strolled on through and was like, "Hey, sup?" And he began to yell at her and say, "Get the fuck out of my house. You shouldn't be here." But when she started going down on him, his entire demeanor changed and he allowed it to continue, and then he allowed her to stay the night because boys think with that, not this. So another instance of this very odd behavior was Travis had another girl at his house and they'd begun just kissing and getting a little bit intimate on the lounge, at which point they both look up and see that Jodi is standing at their back window watching them. Just watching them. And when they do catch her, she just runs away. She just ran to the car and left. And I'm pretty sure that girl got the fuck out of there because that's insane. And they actually ended up breaking up because at that point he kind of had to come clean about the fact that, oh yeah,
I'm fucking her. I'm fucking the batshit crazy lady watching us. Sorry about that.
And they ended up breaking up. Despite many more instances of Jodi breaking into people's homes, not just his, but also his friends and his girlfriends, he stuck by her and he continued to have sex with her and keep her as friends with benefits, completely disregarding all of the crazy signs, dude. He still continued to see her for sex and even traveled with her in March of 2008. I'm going to put in a couple of clips here to demonstrate how purely sexual the relationship was between Travis and Jodi. I just want Travis's intentions to be very, very clear that it was purely sexual. He wanted a wife and kids and a future, and that wasn't Jodi. Jodi was just friends with benefits, that's all she was. Obviously, she believes otherwise, but listen to this.
I'm going to tie you to a tree and put it in your by the way.
Oh my gosh. That is so debasing. I like it.
Honey, the pictures of the tag are so hot. Giggles.
Like, what are we going to do with ourselves? We are just horny toads.
Like, one, let me tell you some of the pictures they take. Some of these will have to be anti-racial. Like, one of them's going to be me laying on my back. Or, you know, stick it straight out.
You have a good looking baby. I just want to let you know.
Yeah, like my
Jodi was somewhere to put his dick, basically. So, yeah. In January 2008, Jodi claims that she walked in on Travis masturbating to a photo of a young boy. She also claims that when he sort of realized that Jodi had caught him, he became aggressive and kicked her and hurt her finger. Keep in mind though that these accusations only came out after years of lying to police about what had happened. Also, at the same time that she claims she caught him, she had like a journal or a diary entry thing. And the police actually used these journals and diaries to help put together a time frame of their relationship and whatever. So she did tend to write a lot in there, but on this day that she claimed she caught him, she had actually written, "I'm not writing anything today because there's nothing to write about." Again in February, Jodi sneaks in through the doggy door, and after Travis arrives home from yet another date, he sleeps with her again. By May 2008, Jodi has a new potential boyfriend, Ryan Burns, and they're becoming more sexual in nature and they want to meet up. But around this exact same time, Jodi has now begun to text all the females that Travis is seen with and telling them that they're whores and they don't deserve him, and just an array of negative shit. So on the 26th of May, Travis texts Jodi and says that he feels as though he's nothing but a dildo with a heartbeat to her and that he wants nothing to do with her. He calls her a sociopath and says that she is the worst thing to ever happen to him. Ouch. That must have hurt Jodi. So Jodi then made plans with her new boo Ryan Burns, and planned to meet him and arrive at his house on the 4th of June. At this point though, Jodi had access to Travis's bank account and social media accounts, and she had actually pretended and impersonated Travis to text other females saying things like, "Oh, I'm cuddling up to Jodi," or this and that about Jodi. And these women were like, "The fuck is Jodi?" So at this point, he had to text her again and said, "I
Want nothing to do with you. Stay out of my life forever."
So now Jodi hires a white Ford Focus and drives to her ex-boyfriend's house where she borrows 2 gas tanks. She told him it was for a road trip to go and see a friend, and so he was like, "Okay, no worries," handed it over. She then went to the bank and deposited 3 separate sums into 3 separate bank accounts, and then went to a gas station bathroom and dyed her hair from platinum blonde to brown. After this, she went to Walmart and bought another gas can. She then called Ryan Burns and said, "I will be there tomorrow between 12 and 1. So this is the 4th of June. She was supposed to arrive at Ryan Burns' house between 12 and 1. She also called Travis a number of times that day. The first few times, I don't believe he did answer. I think the longest phone call was 17 seconds, so please don't believe they actually talked. She then called him again, didn't answer, called him again, and they answered, talked for about 10 minutes, and then hung up. On the 4th of June 2008, Jodi arrives at Travis's house around 4 a.m. Before entering, she unscrews the back license plate, turns it upside down, and screws it back in. Then she goes to the front door, meets Travis, and they go to bed and sleep until 1 p.m. that afternoon. So at this point, they both wake up and start having sex. They film sex tapes, and they take a lot of nude photos of each other. A lot of photos of Jodi, a lot of photos of Travis. The earlier photos are on the bed and like fully nude of Jodi, where it looks like Travis has directed her on where to sit and what to do and the poses and whatever. And then by 4 p.m, Ryan Burns still hasn't heard a word from Jodi. He's called her phone multiple times, but she has actually turned it off. And now he's starting to get a little bit worried. At 5 p.m, Travis goes to take a shower, and Jodi takes this as an opportunity to run downstairs, run to her car, get her backpack out of the boot, which had a gun in it. A gun which we now know she had actually stolen from her grandparents' house in a staged burglary. Jodi grabbed 2 knives from the kitchen. She locked all of the doors, including the little doggy door. He was confined to one area. And she locked the bedroom door. The rest of what I'm about to say is what prosecutors allege happened. And it's very important to note that Jodi Arias has denied all of what I'm about to say. So Jodi began taking photos of Travis in the shower. At first he appears to be very uncomfortable, but then he slowly sort of leans into it a little bit more. And she asks him to get on the floor for more photos, and she takes a couple. And then she says, "Now close your eyes and count to 10. And as he does, Jodi pulls a knife out from the waistband of her yoga pants and shoves the knife into Travis's chest. So Travis panics and immediately reaches up and then tries to get up, and he's panicking, and then Jodi's panicking, and in the chaos, Jodi cuts her own finger, and now her blood and his blood and the shower mixing all over the place. So at this point, she's fucking angry because that fucking hurt, because knives fucking hurt. And she thrusts the knife again and pushes it into Travis's finger, like in the finger. At this point, he actually crawls out of the shower and heads towards the sink. He bleeds all over the sink, and at this point, Jodi comes up behind him, raises the knife, shoves it in his back, out and back and out and back, multiple fucking times. I'm not going to talk about every single instance of the knife fight. In the end, he was stabbed 29 times. After this, as he's trying to get away, again, he sort of crawls from the ensuite into the bedroom. They're connected, and she follows him. She proceeds to stomp on his head, kick him, bash him. She then sits on his back, pulls his head up by his ears, nose, and hair, and she slashes his throat from ear to ear, almost reaching the spine. After he had died, she drags him from that spot back into the bathroom, where she proceeds to shoot him in the head. She cleans up the mess, deletes the photos from his camera, chucks the camera into the washing machine along with some bleach and clothes, and she does a load. What she didn't know though is that for police it's actually very easy to recover deleted photos despite being thrown in the wash, and so they were able to get all of the photos they took that day. On the 9th of June, Travis missed a scheduled trip to Cancun, and his friends immediately were like, what the fuck? They went to his house to check up on him, and that's when they walked in and found him dead in his bedroom. He'd been stabbed 29 times, had his throat slit from ear to ear, and had been shot in the head. Coroners were able to determine that the date of death was the 4th of June 2008, the same day, obviously, that Jodi was at his house. So on the 9th of July, Jodi was arrested for first-degree murder, and she had a bond of $2 million. Originally, Jodi claimed that she was innocent, like fully innocent, never was there that day, didn't have sex with him that day, it wasn't her in the photos. As you can see in the tape I'm about to insert, she was in full-blown denial.
And I have pictures of you in Travis's bedroom with Travis, pictures of him, and it's obvious you guys are having sex, taking photos of each other, and they're dated and time-stamped on the day he died.
Are you sure it's me? I mean,
The investigation and trial that came after this was basically insane. There's really no other way to say it. It was just nuts. Originally, Jodi claimed that she was innocent, like fully innocent, never was there that day, didn't have sex with him that day, it wasn't her in the photos. She was in full-blown denial. The investigators had an abundance of evidence at this point, but Jodi continued to just lie through her teeth about having any involvement at all. Jodi's blood was found at the crime scene mixed with Travis's, hence her cutting her finger. Her hair was found at the crime scene also covered in blood, and they had hair follicles on them, which means that they had freshly fallen from her head. It wasn't old like she claimed. She tried to claim that it was from when she used to stay there, which was back in April. Didn't add up. And there was also a bloody handprint that matched her left palm left on the wall. She tried to claim that there was already a handprint there and then someone put blood on top of it, and that's not how it works, Jodi. Not how it works. And of course there was the naked photos of Jodi and the photos of Travis moments before he died that all had timestamps and date stamps. How did she think she could explain that? I watched 4 2-hour-long interrogation tapes, and it wasn't until the 4th tape that she finally began to admit that yes, she was at his house that day. Unfortunately, that was the only honest thing she said in this version of events, because she instead decided to claim that she had been there to have sex with him and that was all fine, and then someone had broken in and killed him, and it wasn't her. She claimed that 2 people had come into the house while she was there, killed him while she was sat on the floor, and she demonstrated this. She demonstrated how she was and how they were and how things happened. She said that they came in, shot Travis over her shoulder, and then they argued whether or not to kill Jodi because she was a witness, and then they decided that no, they wouldn't kill her, they would just let her take the fall, and if she was ever to tell the truth, they would hurt her family. She even went so far as to describe what they looked like. She said that they were 2 white Americans, 1 male, 1 female, and they wore ski masks. And the investigator at the time literally, like, immediately was like, Jodi, that's not believable. That doesn't make sense. Is there a motive? Why would they come? Do you know who they are? Why would they leave you? If they killed him so violently, why would they leave you as a witness? Like, just literally immediately was like, dude, no. But Jodi stuck to that story for 2 whole years. 2 years, dude. 2 whole years. She pretended that random people had come in and done the whole thing. 2 years she stuck by that fucking story. 2 years. The trial commenced on the 10th of December 2011, but it wasn't until the 4th of February 2013 that Jodi Arias took the stand in her own defense. And she took the stand for something like 18 days, which is just like unprecedented, not heard of. And a lot of people think that that definitely worked to her disadvantage, which obviously isn't what she was going for. But a lot of people feel as though she was very narcissistic and thought that people would just eat up her lies, and so she wanted to be the one on there lying, I guess. I don't know. So this is the point where she would play the recordings of her and Travis's like phone sex sessions. And the reason she did this was to paint him in a negative light. She wanted to paint him as being this very sexually frustrated Mormon man who had certain sexual fantasies and desires that could be misconstrued as being violent or unhealthy and toxic. And these phone recordings did definitely paint that picture, because at one point Travis does say to her that he wants to cable tie her or zip tie her to a tree and have anal sex with her. Jodi then went on to say that she didn't enjoy anal sex was painful to her, but as a Mormon man, Travis believed that it wasn't like real sex unless it was like vaginal. And so this was something he wanted to do a lot and was like a fantasy of his, which she didn't enjoy. And she tried to paint the picture that there was like this violent, controlling, sexually deviant streak about Travis, I guess. She also told the jury that Travis was attracted to young boys and young girls and, you know, engaged in like pedophilia. Not in like physical abuse to children, but claimed that he watched child pornography and had these urges and whatever. And she claimed that she helped him, or at least attempted to help him manage these urges. So because of these allegations, Travis's possessions were investigated, and the police came back and testified that there was no signs of child pornography on his laptop, nor was there anything that pointed towards having any sort of disturbing sexual urges towards children at all. At least that's what they said in 2013. The reason she tried to paint such a violent picture of Travis was to match her plea of self-defense. In her third and final version of events, she claims that Travis had gotten very angry at her, which had caused this big fight. She claims that she dropped Travis's camera, at which point he grew very angry and grew very violent and started to abuse her, at which point he pulled a gun out on her. She then claims that she had to fight in self-defense, and that ultimately led to her killing him in self-defense, and that she couldn't recall certain details due to the stress of the situation and due to blacking out and not being able to retain any memory because of the stress. And she even had psychologists back her up on that, They claimed that while yes, it is possible that she wouldn't be able to retain any memory because of the stress of the situation and the attack and the adrenaline, whatever, that it wasn't necessarily probable. Make of that what you will. So on the 7th of May, Jodi Arias was found guilty of first-degree premeditated murder and felony murder, and the community was over the fucking moon. They were over the fucking moon. There was people outside her court hearing, cheering and screaming and hugging each other, because at this point it had been years since 2008, it had been years since his death, and years of lies, like very heavily publicized lies. But this wasn't over, because prosecutors had actually sought the death penalty, and this meant that they now had to prove that Jodi Arias and her crime was heinous enough to deserve the death penalty. And this meant that the defense had to prove that her life had enough value to be spared. So the prosecution did a really, really good job of demonstrating how vile and evil her crime had actually been. They put up the photos of Travis's dead body, showing his injuries in the home where he was found, and they asked for a moment of silence within the court for the period of time that it would have taken for Travis to actually die from the injuries. So this was a significant amount of time, from the time she first stabbed him in the shower to the time she then slit his throat to the time he actually died. And to sit there for that long thinking about the excruciating pain he must have been in definitely drove home how evil and planned and malicious this attack was. So they did a really, really good job of proving that to the jury. The defense, on the other hand, didn't do such a good job. They had Jodi plead for her life. She basically sat up there and said, "I'm not going to beg you, but here's all the ways I'm gonna beg you." She listed a number of programs that she wanted to start and groups she wanted to start in prison once she got there, because she was asking for a life sentence. And among those things were things like a book club, like just very trivial things. So after the very confronting moment where they had the moment of silence, the jury pretty much had decided. So after 3 hours, which is a very short time for deliberation, the jury came back and decided that she was in fact eligible for the death penalty. But alas, it still wasn't over. Jodi had a sentencing retrial that began in October 2014, and this time police stated that there was actually evidence on Travis's computer of child pornography and bugs from said pornography. This was on the contrary to what they had already claimed in 2013, the original trial, that there was nothing. They now said, actually, there was. So this led to the jury deadlocking when they deliberated, and Jodi's defense team asked for a mistrial due to the deadlock, but the judge said, "No, jury, go back, deliberate some more. We need to sort this, like fucking make a decision." And they ultimately deadlocked again, 11-1 in favor of the death penalty. But there was that one stubborn person that, for whatever reason, didn't believe in the death penalty or didn't believe she was eligible for it. And so the decision was passed over to the judge instead. So on the 13th of April 2015, Jodi Arias was sentenced by a judge, not a jury, to life in prison with no chance of parole. At this point, all of her trials combined cost taxpayers $3 million, $3 million US, just to send her to prison. The death penalty costs a lot more money, than it does just to send people to prison. And that, my dear friends, is the crazy story of Jodi fucking Arias. I hope you liked this one because it actually took me hella fucking long to get all of this information. Before you go though, please let me know what you think about this video. What do you think about Jodi? What do you think about her lies or her version of events? Do you think that there was any truth in any number of her version of events, or do you think she lied the entire time? Do you think she was a stalker who just didn't want him around anymore? And I'd actually love to know what you think about Travis as well. Do you think that there was domestic violence on his part? Do you think that he did instigate the fight before he died? Let me know. Let me know in the comments down below, or you can head over to my Facebook, which is Skye Webb with 3 B's, and let me know there. I would love to hear what you think. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe so you can see all my new videos I post every single Thursday, all about true crime. Make sure you guys are being safe out there. Do not date girls who crawl through your doggy doors without permission. Don't date girls who crawl through your doggy doors with permission. And most importantly, trust your friends when they tell ya your boo is fucking cray cray, because chances are they're probably right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it and I hope you enjoyed it. Be safe out there. Goodbye. I can't even reach. That's so far. Oh, that's so cold.